The American has officially announced a 12-year deal with ESPN. I'm Haley Outen, joined by the commissioner of the American, Mike Aresco. Mike, people across the country, schools, fans, they've been patiently awaiting this moment to find out what the future of this league is going to be. What were your main goals heading into this TV deal?
Well, Haley, obviously we're excited about it, and we were patiently waiting too in terms of getting it announced. But I think the main goals were obviously financial security for the membership, a chance to continue the progress that we've made. You need the resources to do that. We've done a remarkable job with limited resources. Also providing the necessary exposure to continue to be a major, competitive force in college athletics. We've done that. People will notice that there is more linear coverage on the ESPN main platforms, the Disney platforms, ABC, ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN than we had before. But also we're part of ESPN Plus, which is obviously a digital, cutting-edge technology, and you need to be part of that. That's the future. So I think this gives us the exposure we need. And also I think just a deal like this, I think will give our membership, Haley, a sense of pride. It'll give our fans a sense of pride. We're hoping that it helps us in a lot of different ways with the CFP, with our fans' attendance, just energizing our fan base. TV ratings have been great. We hope that continues. So I think there are a lot of positives to this, and I'm very excited and pleased, and I thank ESPN for their wonderful work on this.
The conference has been branding Power 6 now for several years. What does a deal like this mean for the future of the American?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Power 6 because I should have just mentioned it. It certainly furthers our Power 6 narrative. You can never take that for granted. It's going to be a continued battle for us. We hope that we'll win it eventually. But I think a deal like this clearly creates a separation. Nothing against our brethren in the so-called G5, but we've never been happy with that designation. We think we're a P6, and we think that this will further that narrative, the amount of money, also the amount of exposure, the confidence that ESPN has shown in us in doing a long-term deal. So again, I think the P6 narrative is going to be critical for the conference. That's the next step. This deal will only help it.
To people that question the length of the deal, 12 years, it's a long time. What would you say to them?
Well, a couple of things. One, ESPN showed a lot of confidence in us by wanting to do a long-term deal. Two, the long-term deal gives them and also us a great deal of security. The money is significant. The exposure is significant. Also, you always have a chance down the road, to talk to your partner about the future and about possibly, extending out and redoing some of it. So it's a long-term deal. You have an opportunity at some point to reassess. So I think overall it shows tremendous, confidence in us. Also, ESPN, in order to do a deal like this, needed a certain length. Haley, things have changed in the broadcast and TV media world. In the old days, deals were shorter. They were 2, 3, 4, 5 years. But ever since Dick Ebersol started doing those long-term Olympic deals, almost all the deals you see are 10, 12 years. This is not unusual. If you look at the P5 deals currently in place, which probably have many of them 4 or 5 years to run, most tended to be in the 10 to 12-year range. The Big Ten was the unusual exception. They did a 6-year deal. And maybe they wanted to take advantage of some of the new media technology down the road. But in our case, we're thrilled with being with ESPN. I mean, they're a great partner, and I think this shows the stability and also how they view our league. They view it with a great deal of optimism, and I think they view us as a stable entity, which you can't argue we were 6 years ago, but we are now.
For fans, one of the most important things is where can they watch their teams, where can they find their product, and for football and men's basketball it's certainly promising, but ESPN Plus offers a different element to this league, and there's some major organizations out there, MLS, MLB, UFC. What does ESPN Plus, both the digital package but also the linear package, do for the American moving forward?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because there's some misinformation out there about ESPN Plus, but first I'll take the linear. We are going to get more linear coverage, more football games and more guaranteed basketball games on ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, and also we'll have the same number on ABC. So we are going to have even more linear coverage of our main games, and that's important to note. There will be some football games, not as many as that will be on linear on ESPN Plus, and there will be more basketball games on ESPN Plus because there are so many more basketball games. But ESPN Plus, first of all, it's extremely reasonably priced. It's $4.99 a month. It's available in 100% of the country. You know, it's available in 100% of homes. You can arrange to have it on your TV. You can get it on your iPhone. You can get it on your you know, your iPad. You can watch it in a variety of ways, but it's available. You know, we've had some games on networks that were available in half or less than half of the country. So this is really something that I think we have to educate our fans, our fan base, that if you want ESPN Plus, you're going to get it. And to say that ESPN Plus is in 2 million homes and some of those other networks we dealt with were in many more homes is irrelevant. Because if you want ESPN Plus, you'll get it. It's easy to sign up for. Even I was able to do it, you know, and you know me, I'm technologically challenged.
You don't give yourself enough credit.
Well, it's a terrific, you know, the quality content, the quality of the production, everything about it is first rate. And it's ESPN, it's powered by ESPN and Disney, which means it's going to continue to grow, it's going to continue to be more prominent. And anybody who underestimates the power of Disney in terms of promoting an ESPN is just not really looking at things realistically. So I think that's a key thing. We've got to educate people on ESPN Plus, but also the digital part of this is the linear part is very, very important. We're still going to get a lot of linear coverage. We are a major conference, and we're probably the first major conference that has made this kind of commitment also to ESPN Plus. One other thing I would add about Plus, we over the years have not really produced that many women's basketball games. Now there will be almost 170 women's basketball games that will be available. If you want to watch a particular women's basketball game, you'll be able to. In the past, you could watch maybe 30 or 40 of them, but you couldn't watch them all. And in some cases, you would have to watch, you know, if you weren't in the particular region where they were on regional TV, you couldn't watch them at all. So I think this in many ways will be, you know, a huge improvement, but we have to educate people because, you know, you've heard, oh, well, it's going to ESPN Plus behind a paywall, it's this and that. You know, the paywall is, again, I don't want to minimize the fact that somebody has to pay for something, but it is very, very, I mean, that's a tremendously reasonable price at $4.99 a month to get all that great content.
In exploring a TV deal, there's obviously a lot of options out there, different networks, different digital platforms. Ultimately, though, in the end, why was it important to you to keep that partnership with ESPN going?
It was very important, assuming we could work out the kind of deal we needed. One, we think ESPN is obviously the unquestioned leader in everything, and we think that their future is still the brightest of any media company and any major, you know, media distributor. So we wanted to be with them. There are a couple other reasons. One, we also know them, they know us. We have a tremendous relationship. We got to know Jimmy Pitaro, the president, Burke Magnus and Tom O'Jackson, and I go back 35 years. You know, we know Burke extremely well. Nick Dawson and Pete Durzis, who were part of his negotiating team, are old friends of ours. It's really important when you have a relationship. They know how we schedule, they know how we do things, we know how they do things. There's a dialogue that, you know, you might not have with a new partner that doesn't know you as well and has certain expectations that are not as realistic. So having that relationship with ESPN was terrific. Also, one-stop shopping is great for us. You know, I don't lose any sleep over the fact that our teams are going to be on ESPN platforms. Whatever platform they're assigned, they know it's ESPN. They know it's the ESPN brand. They're comfortable. They know it's the best. They know their big games will be on either ABC or ESPN or ESPN2 or ESPNU. They know that they'll get all these Olympic sports covered now on ESPN Plus. They know that they're going to get coverage of women's basketball. We have Olympic sports that'll be covered, and some of those Olympic sports will be covered on linear networks. But wherever the games are assigned, you know, it's going to be quality production, attention. Also, we're part of the ESPN universe, you know, in terms of getting, you know, promotion from ESPN. They're going to promote us much more like a P5 conference in terms of the amount of promotion we'll get, in terms of the use of our logo. And you can't put a price on that. That's really terrific for us. So again, this was something we wanted to do. You know, you never know whether you're going to be able to work something out, but you get great people at ESPN. They worked with us. And I think it's a credit to our schools, what they've accomplished, because I think ESPN saw the value, saw the great ratings we've been doing, saw the progress in football, saw the progress in basketball. Women's basketball, we're among the best with UConn and some good teams. So overall, I think everybody felt that this was a really good partnership.
Mike, you'll be the first to admit that at the end of the day, this is all about the schools. So how is this TV deal going to help the 13 full-time members in this conference elevate their product on the court or on the field?
You're absolutely right, Haley. It's about the student athletes and the institutions, and let me give them all the credit, because we created a narrative in the conference. We try to run a good conference, and we try to make sure that we do things right, and we schedule correctly, and we get the right, exposure, TV. But without the schools and without our student athletes doing what they did, this wouldn't have been possible. They have really done, amazing things when you really think about it. The obstacles and headwinds they face, lack of resources, having that G5 label, not necessarily recruiting 4- and 5-star kids all the time like some of these other schools. But we have, I say we're blue collar versus blue blood. We're lunch pail. We're gritty. We're tough. We challenge. But we have some tremendous pedigree, especially in basketball. We have blue bloods, and we have some in football. But we have done some remarkable things, and I give them all the credit because, again, my narrative would have been meaningless if we weren't performing. I would have been the laughing stock. Can't be, as I've said all along, can't be built on sand. It's got to be built on real achievement. But when you win, 3 of those New Year's Day bowl games, and you come close to winning a 4th, when you win a national championship in men's basketball and 3 national championships in women's, and been in Final Fours every year in the women's side, when you are very good in Olympic sports, when you have all those great, we're getting close to 40 P5 victories in football, and we've had so many great Saturdays and weeknights when we've had wonderful games. When you do all that, you really create a brand, and you have the national impact I'd always hoped we would have. Haley, we never wanted to settle for being, a secondary conference. That's why the G5 thing has hurt us. There's no question we have to, work our way out of that, and I think we will. I think this deal will help us do that.